I believe that I didn't want to get sober and clean for many years because I had the misconception that I would have to become perfect.
You are hurt and you're the victim, but along the way you hurt people. So you have to walk through not only your hurt as what happened to you, you also have to reconcile the hurt that you caused others.
Yes, I have to take responsibility, but I now have the ability to take responsibility. I have my power back. That they no longer have control over me.
Welcome to the Rethreading Lives podcast, where we talk about how to take your threads of harm and through the Rethreaded process, transform them into something that actually helps you reach your potential. We'll talk with different leaders in our city and our country and find out what they're doing. You'll walk away from listening to this podcast with useful insights and captivating stories on how you yourself can rethread your life and your business. I'm Kristin Keen, and this is the Rethreading Lives podcast. Welcome to the Rethreading Lives podcast. I'm so excited today to introduce our guest, Shirley Turner, who is the Rethreaded's concierge and survivor advocate.
Yes.
Shirley is a overflower of joy, a lover of pine cones, a lover of travel, and it is just a joy to have her on our staff. So today we're going to talk to Shirley about the rethreading process in her life and how she has walked through really hard things and came out through it, this beautiful, soft, giving, loving person who's amazing to be around, who I learned so much from. So we're going to start though. We're going to start now. So where are you now?
Thank you for asking me to be here, though.
Yes.
So where am I at now? Wow. I don't even know where to start. You know, I'm, like you said, I'm full of joy. I'm full of gratitude because I know where I went to and where I'm at now. And it's like night and day, you know, from being so lost and in the darkness to being into the light. And, you know, I'm 60 years old and I'm renting my own place. You know, I'm able to be a grandmother, a granny, and a sister, a friend, an employee, and most of all, just a helper. You know, I love helping other people, and I love to watch them grow into the people they're supposed to be. I got sober in 2014, and when me and a couple other girls, we got out of jail, and I think two of them went to Rethreaded, and it wasn't my time. You know, but I'd go over there. I went over there, I think, like 3 times to help sort T-shirts and just to stop by and say hey. And then I was at the halfway house, and one of the girls said that she was going to apply for a job there. And I was like, oh, I need to also. You know, and she didn't go. I did. And the process started, and it felt right. It was like, this is where I need to be, and I'm supposed to be at this time. You know, and I haven't looked back. You know, me and 2 other girls just celebrated 4 years. And, you know, the love that I've learned since being there, you can't put a price on. You know, it is something that I believe in with passion. My heart we always talk about how many jobs you had that you are anxious to get up in the morning and look forward to going to work. I think everybody that works there can't wait to get to work. You know, the Devos in the morning, that was the first thing that blew me away, and I think helped get me grounded. But being there has helped me to see my potential, not only release it, but see it. Because knowing where you were supposed to be and actually accepting it, completely different. You know, because I have the opportunity or the choice to go anywhere I want to go. It's like it's not time. But Rethreaded is a blessing, and the potential for that alone. Like I shared the other day, if you stand at our gate and look in, I can see the movement. I can see the love of the the community growing, because we're going up and we're growing.
I mean, there's a lot of patience and time, though. I mean, because we didn't have the perfect job for you when you first came there.
No.
But you did the hard work and the grit of doing a job that wasn't your preference, but you were willing. You held it with open hands, and you were willing until the right thing came open that really takes your talents and skills and just lets you run with them every day. I think that's a remarkable thing. Most people are so anxious, they don't want to spend the time. I just want to get there. I just want to get there. I just want to get there. It's not fast enough. I want the job that I want. I want the position I want. I want the house I want. I want. And I think one of the reasons that you've experienced the incredible growth and the capacity that you've got is because you were willing to take the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started off in production, making the scarf, and then I did go to retail. So I think it's having the knowledge of what each job would entail, but also being the helper wherever I'm needed also, because it's growing. You know, I mean, I'm growing with it, but to be able to see the different positions and to watch them be filled. You know, I mean, when I say I'm the concierge at Rethreaded now, I am, you know, and I embraced it. At first I was like, what does that even mean? But I get to love on people. Yeah. So, and that's just the short end of it. It's like, I just get to love people.
That's right.
Well, there's so many things that I love about it, because I don't have to sit at a desk every day, and I'm not on my feet every day. But what my job entails is I do get to love on people. You know, I like the allotment times or the birthdays when I get to hand people their cards and give them hugs, and you know.
Can you explain that a little bit? What that is, like what the process is, like what do we do on people's birthdays and allotments and stuff?
Yeah. So okay, for the month of July, there was 4 of us that celebrated an anniversary, and I think there was like 3 or 4 birthdays, and one day out of the month, a Tuesday usually, towards the middle, I get to hand out their birthday cards and their allotment cards that we've all passed around and signed to make them feel loved and special. And then coming up in August, I think there's like 15 cards.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's going to be a busy morning. But, you know, I think everybody likes to, or no, they love to see how much we love them when they do get the card. And who doesn't like a birthday? You know, it's like, I know one lady has her anniversary and her birthday in August, and I was like, well, you just get double the hugs. But my job is freeing. You know, I get to go to the store, I get to shop, I get to go pick up food. You know, I get to run errands, but I also get to help out in the admin part. So, and you know, or retail if I'm needed, you know, but this weekend we get to celebrate our birthday, you know, and what a blessing that is, because it's the little things like that add up to the big thing.
So what have you accomplished in the past couple of years? I know you've done lots of cool things.
I have. Yeah. I mean, well, and it started off when I was in jail, you know, in 2012, I got my diploma. And then in 2014, when I got out, or one of the times I got out, I commenced the Matrix program. And then, you know, the little things that started adding up were I got my driver's license, you know, and then I saved for a car. And it was all these little steps that were taking place that I didn't see at the time, because if you're anything like me, it's like I want it now. And the process to work towards it was hard, but it was doable. And I started doing it, and then when I discovered my love for travel, I've been to Colorado, I've been to Alaska, and next week I'll be going to Montana, Wyoming. So it's the adventures of life. I always tell people I got sober to live, and I'm very thankful that I made that decision.
Can you talk about going on a plane?
I love it. It's like, from the beginning, everybody says, you video it the whole time. I'm like, yes, I do. It's like, you know, there's nothing better than to it's like, it's not like a roller coaster, but just the excitement of it and the feel, and then to look from the sky down to where we are, you know. But I think the first time that I realized how little I was watching the airplanes. Because my first job when I got sober was ringing the Salvation Army bell at Christmas. And I kept looking up and I was like, oh, I love the planes. And then I kept seeing them and I was like, there's so many people on those planes and who am I? You know, to realize that I'm nobody, but yet I am somebody. You know, so, but I love the feeling that you get when you're taking off and landing, not so much, but it's always in the excitement of it.
Where did you go the first time on a plane? So before you went on this plane, you had never been on a plane in your life before this?
I was on a plane one time, but I do not remember it.
Gotcha. Noted. But so this was the first time, sober, healthy, whole, you got on a plane.
Yes.
What did you do? Where did you go?
I flew with my sister to Gulfport, Mississippi. And it was just from Orlando up and for like an hour.
Is it even an hour?
It was really short. But, you know, and when you don't know anything, how are you supposed to know? Because when we landed, it was raining, it was cloudy. And I remember I was looking out the window, obviously, and I could see it. And then there was a little bit of break. And then we came through and we landed. And Priscilla was like, oh. And I was like, what? She said, that was terrible. That was so rough. And I was like, I didn't know. I said, I thought it was pretty good.
I'm alive.
Exactly.
Wasn't too rough.
So, you know, the turbulence is like, I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like. So it felt good. Like just being the excitement of being in a plane or going to someplace different.
So maybe you can start us off and we can start this conversation is when in your journey, your Rethreaded journey, when did you start to feel the shift? And like, what do you feel like was the first step for you out of the Rethreaded process of time, community, purpose, vision,
community,
openness.
Where
did
you first start to feel that shift? Well, I would have to say that the first shift began when I was in jail. I was in jail quite a few times, but the last time I was in jail, I started asking myself the deep personal questions of where am I at? You know, do I want to be a part of life? As life, my kids were having babies, you know, and they were young adults. I wanted to be a part of their life, but the shift was very slow for me, you know, because I kept thinking that I could do it on my own and I didn't need anybody's help. And then the last time when I got out of jail, I went to the halfway house and I put forth everything that I had, you know, and when it didn't happen, I was able to finally start learning from my mistakes because I relapsed and I kept trying to figure it out. But I remember the last night that I was out there that when I was crushed, when I was finally broken enough to where I knew that I couldn't do it by myself. And that's where the community came in. You know, the time is still healing, and my purpose I'm discovering, you know, every day a little bit more of who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be like. But the community, I think, comes in the beginning. You know, it did for me. You know, the openness, I had to be open with somebody. I had to really get honest with them and let them in so I could hear the me too. You know, because feeling like I'm alone and that I'm unworthy and that I'm no good, all these, the BS, all the blame and the shame and the guilt that I carried for so many years because I believed all the lies that I was telling myself, that I was too old, you know, that nobody loved me anymore and why even bother? But when the light started coming in and especially some of my very dear friends were around me and they said, I'll be with you. You know, you don't have to do it alone. Those are little things that I've carried all these years that have helped me to continue. And especially a gratitude list. Always keeping a gratitude list.
So at this point when you're in jail, like this first time when you're getting towards the end or the shift, you had been in the life for 10 years, right, and in addiction for 10 years. And this was the start of healing for you, was the openness in the jail.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Matrix House program is behavior modification, but there's counselors and there's the 12-step program. And like I started out with, when you don't know, how do you know? You know, because for me, it was like I really isolated to the point of where I thought that I didn't need anybody or I could do it on my own. And then to finally start asking for help. It wasn't a hard process, but it was unlearning what I already learned, you know, and unthreading that process of being so wound up tight that I couldn't let anybody in. And finally to start sharing what was going on and realizing that I could heal, you know, and it still takes time, you know, but the 10 years that I missed out of life, you know, I tell my friends and stuff that if there were movies or music during that time, I have no recollection of it. You know, because if you're living out on the street or if you're in jail, there's, you know, time does basically stop. You know, and then all of a sudden your kids are grown, and, you know, it's a healing process. Yeah.
I know we talk a lot about time at Rethreaded. How it's our most precious commodity. Mm-hmm. We can't get it back. It's the currency of healing. And how it sounds like you had to learn how long it takes to heal almost. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how you allowed yourself to be open to the time it took?
Yeah, I mean, I think that becoming so broken that there was nothing left to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it was either give up completely and keep doing the same thing that I was doing, or finally just come to realize that, wait a minute, I want to live, you know, and will you show me how to live? Finally letting somebody help me and show me how to live, you know, because by this time I completely erased how to be a mother or how to be a friend or how to be a sister, anything, because I was to the point where I didn't care. But to finally accept that and to be okay with it. You know, the program that I am has taught me it's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. You know, I believe that I didn't want to get sober and clean for many years because I had the misconception that I would have to become perfect. And when it was explained to me, no, it's accepting who you are and learning from your mistakes and knowing that it's okay. You know, it's okay to be who you are. And little things like that were amazing to me because I always thought that I had to be somebody that I was incapable of being, you know, and doing it over and never getting it right. And then finally just, it's okay to be who I am. You know, I love myself today, that was in itself a milestone. You know, it was a very hard hurdle to jump over. You know, the awareness, the acceptance, and the love.
I mean, I haven't been in jail. I haven't been in addiction. But like, when you say those words, I thought I had to be perfect. I mean, that is my script in my head. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it stops me. Like, blame and shame stop me. Yeah, like I can deeply relate as another human being to what you said. And I mean, I was just talking about it yesterday. I was like, why can't I just be different? Instead of like acceptance of who I am. And it's not perfect. I don't know. And I don't know why that part is so scary for me. I don't know. I mean, I think there would be a lot of people that are listening that can relate to that.
And I think the best examples of that are people that let me know that they make mistakes too. And to see them be who they are when they do make a mistake and they laugh about it, I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good. You know, because I do it all the time. You know, I walk into the wrong room, you know, or something.
We might have gotten off on the wrong floor.
That's right.
And then coming here.
And it's okay because I can laugh about it today. You know, I mean, I used to have the imaginary baseball bat to where if I did anything wrong, it was like, you're no good. You know, you can't do that. And to be able to laugh at it and go, you know, it happens. You know, there's amazing people that inspire me, you know, to let me know that it's okay.
So it's like laughter is a tool.
Yeah.
To break shame.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the one thing that I've learned to do is laugh at myself. You know, because like I said, to think that I had to become something that I wasn't, or, you know, perfect, and to not be able to grasp it, it was hard, you know, but then the acceptance part and the awareness of who I was, you know, because I think this morning at Devo, we were watching the guy, and he was saying, or for me, I can talk about how I experienced that of finally coming to the realization of the truth of who I am. Mm-hmm. You know, that was extremely hard for me to do because I lied to myself for so many years about I'm not that bad. You know, even though I was living on the street, I was doing all these things that I never should have been doing, and justifying it, you know, because I believed that I wasn't hurting anybody and that my kids were better off because I couldn't see the truth of who I was until the last night when I was out there and I saw me. And then the truth came in and I was like, okay, that was painful, you know, but freeing.
But freeing, yeah. You know, we talk about the openness, you know, that moment when we can tell the truth to ourselves and be honest about what our thread is, be honest about what is. And you had said it, you know, that I suddenly realized my kids are growing up and they're having kids, and you start realizing there's a reality here that exists regardless of if I choose to engage in it or not. And that empowers you then to actually make a decision. Do I want to be part of life? You said it. Do I want to be part of life or not? I think that's really, really powerful. So, you know, especially for people who are dealing with this thing of, I'm just not good enough. All right, well, just get to a place where you can look at what is. And if you can get to a place where you can admit what is, then just make a decision. Do you want to be part of it or do you not? I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful.
When we were, was it Monday or Wednesday at Devotion where the guys, or the book, I don't remember. Oh no, I was listening to Andy Stanley podcast, how you get to the point where to look at yourself in the mirror and love who you are.
Right. Yeah, and that was one of the,
was that on
my treatment work. Well, we talked about it a little bit the other day, but part of my treatment work when I was in there was to look at myself in the mirror, which I didn't do, and tell myself, you know, I'm a beautiful child of God, that I'm worthy and He loves me. And my grant sponsor at the time, she had told me the same thing, and I heard it from her, and I started doing that, and because I believed what she said, you know, and to this day I still tell myself that I'm a beautiful child of God, He loves me, and I'm worthy, and you know, and that it helps me to love myself, and the freedom in that is, when I do love myself, I'm able to love you, you know, because before that love, there was no real love. You know, it was the love that I said to get what I wanted. But to be able to say, I love you because I love me, you know, it's true. You know, there's no more lies about love, you know, and I think the unconditional love, when I finally understood that part of it, watching my brother-in-law pass away and his family love him. And I remember walking out and hitting my knees and saying, thank you, God. I know what it is. Because before that, I had no idea what unconditional love was. You know, and...
Oh, your sister said.
Yeah. And it was a gift. You know, and all these gifts that God keeps giving me, I'm able to understand that it's all about love. You know, it's all about helping the next woman, you know, or the next man. You know, somebody that is still lost and don't know what their purpose of life is, but to help them grow and just to watch that light shine in them, what a blessing. It's like, that's joy.
I think that's the amazing thing. We heal just a little bit. We can tell the truth just a little bit. We can tell the truth to ourselves. And then it takes some time. We heal a little bit more. And then maybe we can tell the truth to somebody else and let them see inside our wall. And then a little more time goes by, community comes around, and we start getting an inkling of what is my purpose. Mm-hmm. And then when we get really busy on our purpose, some of the blame and shame fades away, because I loved what he said this morning. If that's what you know about me, you don't know the worst of it.
That's right.
It's so much worse than you know. But suddenly it's who I am becoming, who I will be. I know what my vision is, and I know what my purpose is. And now this is who I am. This is what I exist for. And one of the things that's hit me in the last couple of days, and I was actually thinking about it driving over here, and you're touching on it, is the pain, the brokenness. Once we release it to God, he then can turn it into a talent and a benefit to us. Because you have a way of seeing a human's heart that I don't think you would have had you not been through the past that you'd been through. Because you knew what the heart was inside the person that other people might be missing. And so your experience has given you a set of awareness and skills Chris and I may have learned over time, but we'll never have at the level you have. Because when you see a human being, you look right through them into their heart. And so you're able to not be going too fast, to just run by them, to miss them, because you genuinely see this person and you're able to slow down and personalize them and hear their individual experience and see their individual heart. And so now your purpose to engage with people, you can take anywhere into any job, and you will be able to transform that organization's ability to see a human being and experience that. And I think it's just remarkable that the suffering and the pain that we go through can become a strength when we realize it and get into our purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that, because it's like I share a lot about how I know how I used to feel on the inside. Mm-hmm. All that bitterness and that anger, but just empty. And I believe it was because my heart was so dark and isolated. And then when I finally made that decision, I do know, it's the from out of the darkness into the light. It's like, I absolutely, it's almost hard to talk about it, because it's the love and compassion that I do feel on the inside, because it's like especially when I see a woman that is broken, I just hugs.
Yeah, you're uniquely qualified by your experience. And you do it better than any of the rest of us do. I mean, there's not a person at Rethreaded who loves human beings the way you do. And I know the work you're doing, Matrix, back in the jails and stuff. I mean, it's remarkable. And I'm not sure you could get there without the journey you walked. And so your journey had purpose and meaning as well.
And without all the work.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're doing a panel, and you're going to be on the panel, and we're going to talk about the Rethreaded process, but like when you talked about your healing process and what you had to walk through, like with your family. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so strong and humble. I was probably like humble. Like, I think I have so much pride still to walk through all that hard stuff.
Well, and the guy this morning, he mentioned it too, forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the key components of it. Forgiveness leads to love. I think that forgiveness for me started when I forgave myself. And then when I shared it with my children and with my family, and they saw it, there was no more broken promises to them. When I tell them, or when I say I'm going to do something, I do it with them. There was, before it would be, I promise I'll be there, and I wouldn't show up. And now, if they call, Mama's going to be there. You know, it's like, can you? Yes, I can. You know, no matter what it is, because they depend on me today. And they're grown adults. You know, because the healing process is believing that God will on his time. You know, no matter what that looks like, because it's, I shared the other day, it's, our relationships aren't the way that I think that they should be, you know, but they're the way that they are, you know, and that's where the acceptance comes in. And I know that in God's time it will get better, you know, and it will get healed, you know, because there was a lot of damage done, but the forgiveness was the first part.
But you're also doing work. So I don't want
Right.
to, I don't want to overlook that, because for sure in all of our relationships, you and I are not enough alone, and we need God to be in our relationships. But God's not going to come in and fix it for you if you're not doing the right things. And so it's also your consistency of, no, this relationship's not where I want it. And I'm trusting God to work on other people's hearts, but I'm responsible for mine. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep on doing the right thing to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my ability. And then I'll trust him to handle the stuff that I can't. And I think that's something I wouldn't want people to miss, is you're not sitting back waiting for things to happen to you. You're doing the hard work, and then just living in faith and trust that if the other people choose not to forgive me, okay, that's on them. That's for God to work out.
Right. And, you know, I mean, I remember always thinking about, why aren't you doing anything? You know, why aren't you helping me? You know, and now it was the genie God. It was like wishing on a magic lamp that, please help me, and not doing anything about it. You know, just laying there expecting to be healed. And finally, with a little bit of help from my friends, they nudged me in the right direction. You have to get up. You know, I heard in Devo one time about, get up and take up your mat. You know, move it. And I learned, you know, move a muscle, change a thought. When I start getting the thoughts going in my mind, it's like, get up and do something. You know, do something different. Don't sit there and stay in your own mind too long, you know, because it's sometimes not good.
That's what I was going to ask you about. How do you handle when the thoughts come back? And one of them is you do something.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I passed through the neighborhood that I was stuck in for many years. I pass through that every day. You know, I say a prayer and thank you, and I pray for the women that are still lost. You know, because I don't want to forget. That's why I still go back in the jail, because I don't want to forget what happened to me. But at the same time, I don't want to forget the ladies that are still there. You know, but I always think, you know, my thoughts are my thoughts, good and bad. But when I think about it, I'm like, is it a good idea? No. You know, no. Especially if it's about anything with the lifestyle or the drugs or the alcohol. No, it's just not. You know, but my first reaction to somebody opening a can of soda, I think, is that a beer? You know, but it's like, and then I laugh. It's like, not here.
That's a remarkable thing. So 2 things. One, I get busy, and I think that's powerful. So even if somebody's not dealing with the things that you've dealt with, if they're a business person trying to work through this thing in their company, just get busy is powerful, because it's harder to get moving than to change directions when you're moving. And so even if you're doing the wrong thing, now not purposely wrong and unethical, but it's a mistake what you're doing, at least you're moving. You can change directions pretty easy. The other thing was, you know, remembering and looking at it with love. But your superpower is gratitude. And you mentioned it just then, and we see it at Rethreaded. How did you get that? And
You know, I mean, and that's the crazy thing. It's like, because being so bitter and so, I don't want to say angry, because that's not the right word. I took everything for granted and everybody for granted. And when my sponsor she said, start writing a gratitude list and add to it every day. And I did that in the beginning of my sobriety, and it's multiplied. It changed the way my heart is, you know, because I can look at things with a bright light, or the brighter side, the silver lining, or the pink cloud, whatever you want to call it. But I see the good. When somebody points out the bad, I'm like, oh, I don't even see that anymore. Because when I leave my house every day, I thank God for my house. When I walk in, I thank God for my house. Little things like that I was taught in the beginning. Thank God for everything, the good and the bad. Because driving down the road, everybody knows that I have a little bit of road rage.
And you drive fast, which is why I like driving with you. We get there.
That's right.
To the police, she doesn't ever exceed the speed limit.
No. Just don't follow me.
It's how fast you get to the speed limit. That's what it is.
Yeah. But, and it's in those moments, because I tell people, I'm like, I can say a prayer, keep everybody safe around me, and I don't want to hurt anybody. I said, but I get to the stop sign and people already do it. I'm already angry. But it does get better, and some days are better than others.
Can you share the story? We were talking yesterday, and I was talking about how sobriety got easier, but you shared with me, you were like, you remember the first time that you walked out and that woman said something to you. It'll be, I don't want to give it away, but tell you, so many first.
Oh, yeah.
Can you share that? Because it was so powerful.
Yeah, I mean,
can you kind of paint the picture where you were at and what she said and how it played out in your life?
And I'm trying to remember exactly, because I just remember who it was and where we were. But I was so excited to be, I don't even remember now where it was or what. I just remember telling her, this is the first time that I get to drive my car, or whatever it was. And she said, Shirley, there's going to be so many firsts. And that's always stuck with me, because I was so surprised at how many firsts there are. This is the first time that I just recently drove to Gulfport. And that was the first time I drove past Tallahassee. And those little things like that I remember. I'm like, oh, this is the furthest we've driven. I drove through a tunnel. Those little first things like that of watching a baby take their first step. Those are joyous occasions. So are driving. Whatever it is. Going to watch the sunset or the sunrise for the first time. I'm going to be doing that in Wyoming. I'm going to watch it from. Actually, it's going to be stargazing, but it's going to be a first. So, and I think that's where the gratitude adds to it, because it's like, if I forget, then it's still going to be a first. The change of perception of, I may have done this before, but this is the first time that I get to really enjoy it. I don't remember where I was.
That was so good. So the journey, it's like a victim to survivor to thriver. So what is evidence in your life about how far you've come?
Victim to survivor to thriver. I was very good at playing the victim my whole life, of poor me, why me, and what about me? It was all about me. And the victim, it was just, I think that's something that you're born with, or I was born with, was because the baby of the family, all these excuses, the black sheep of the family, the only one that didn't do this, all these things that I kept adding to that negative pile. And then finally receiving that help, knowing that I'm a survivor, believing that I'm a survivor of not just the human trafficking, but of life, of being stuck in that dark and that self-pity of poor me, and then to become a thriver, that's like another step above. I'm able to pay my own bills today. I'm able to pay for my own trips. Those are things. I buy my own groceries. I buy my kids stuff, or I help them. I'm helping other people. And to me, it's like learning to take responsibility. That was actually the hardest thing probably for me to do, was to accept responsibility, to be able to learn to and to believe that I was capable of paying my own bills, you know, because I'd never done that before. And I remember whenever I asked my sister if she would co-sign for me a car, and when she said no, I was upset. You know, it's like, what about me? Why not? But she taught me a lesson, you know, and now I know that lesson. I know the value of $1, but I know that when I buy stuff, I respect it more. I take care of it, and I end up enjoying it, you know, and those are things that I've learned. But thriving is along with the responsibility of being a survivor, you know, and being proud of it, because something that is a gift. Yeah. It is.
I think it's remarkable, though, because you're talking about things everybody else complains about. I got to pay my bills, but there's actually joy in responsibility, right?
Yeah, now that you say it that way.
There's actually joy in responsibility, because the counter is I can't pay my bills,
True.
and that's no fun. But most of us just live our lives complaining about, I got to pay my bills, and I got to go help this person. And if we can reframe that and realize it is a joy to be able to do that. And until you don't have it, those people who are listening and have never had to experience not having it, we should probably behave with more gratitude, with more thankfulness about the things we don't like, because it really is a blessing to be able to do that. And I know we hear it around Rethreaded all the time. People thrilled that they're paying their own rent.
Right.
Everybody else in the world's complaining about it because they don't have the perspective of how good that really is. How good that really is.
I know we were talking with everyone, and one of our employees shared how she just spent all day on the couch watching Netflix. Usually when I watch Netflix all day, it's a sign of depression. But she was like, no. She's like, it's a sign to me. Mm-hmm. I can watch Netflix all day, and and no one is going to knock at my door. I don't have to change rooms. I'm safe. I'm not in a hotel room where I don't know people, and I can just sit there all day long, safe. It was astounding.
We call that self-care day.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, little things like that.
The luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The luxury of that, because I think she also mentioned, I don't have to wonder about where I'm going to get food. I can just get up and go to my refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And so for everyone who's just taking, I have food to eat for granted, there's a lot of people in the world who don't have that luxury. And I think she was even proud that she was paying for her own Netflix, which is remarkable. Yes. I mean, it's like, these are incredible things, incredible blessings that we have in our life. And we're just so quick to complain about this thing we think we don't have. And these little things, I can watch TV, I can sit in an air-conditioned room, I have clean water, I have food in the refrigerator. Right. Maybe not my favorite food, but it's food. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's incredible.
And how much you love pine cones.
I know. And that started with a trip to Colorado. Who knew? You know, a lot of people that I know collect either frogs or, little, whatever it is. And I was like, I'm just a collector of things. But when we went on that trip out there, and I saw some little tiny ones, and I was like, oh, they're so cute. And I've left them in the van. But we went to stay in an Airbnb, and all the decorations were pine cones. And I was like, okay, these are too cute. And I know I have probably over 100 pine cones.
You collect pine cones, Kristin collects rocks.
I do have rocks.
I have rocks too. And my granddaughter loves rocks. She'll be riding her tricycle, and she's like, oh, Granny. And she'll go pick up a rock. I'm like, okay.
She's mine.
That's right. True.
I love it, though. I love it so much.
Yeah, we were at the beach a couple weeks ago, and instead of getting the seashells, I found about 3 or 4 big rocks. Somebody said, are you taking those? And I was like, yes.
I hope that's not some violation of law. We got to stop confessing.
It was at our beach.
So I know there's people listening that are going through something that feels impossible. I know there's people that are listening that deal with shame and blame. I know that people feel like it's never going to change. I know that people are listening and they're isolated. Like, what do you want to say to those people?
Okay. There's nothing that's impossible. You know, I mean, I remember I got sober at 51 years old. And before that, so 50 years, at least 45, when I was old enough to start thinking for myself. I always believed that I couldn't do it. Can't. And when I finally realized that I can do whatever I put my heart to, you know, and my mind, but not to let it keep me. You know, I mean, I remember being out on the street thinking, I made my bed, so I might as well lie in it. I did this to myself. You know, all these things that just are not true, and holding on to them, because that's how I was taught, what I believed, and then to finally release it and say, no, that is not who I am. That is not what it's supposed to be like. I'm not too old. You know, I can do this. The shift, the perception of who I was has changed. You know, nothing's impossible. You know, I just saw some ladies last night in the jail, and of course there's a mixture. There's different age groups in there. There's some in their 20s all the way up to probably 60. And it's like, one thing that I want to make clear is it's not too late for anybody, no matter what your age is, you know, or no matter what happened, it is not too late. All you have to do is ask somebody to help you, you know, because there's always going to be somebody that has either went through it, going through it, and that will help you. You know, there's so many resources and so many people that do care, but my mind tells me that nobody does. And that's it's not true. You know, but when I finally say, wait a minute, if I open up my mouth and say, help me, somebody's going to say, I'll be glad to. You know, so nothing is impossible. You know, the rethreading of my life, I was talking about it, it was the getting down to that one last thread of hope, and then letting somebody help me add to it and start rethreading my life, so it started opening up into the sphere that it's supposed to be, full of life, instead of being collapsed like that to where there's just, it's there, but that's it. You know, but to be open like that to where everything can get in and you can be seen, that's life. And it's fun.
Can you, that's what we're going to start ending our shows with is, can you share a full circle moment when you felt your sphere was open and you're just holding it all? You're holding it all in life. Like, is there a full sphere moment that you have that you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, there's many, because I was like, you know, to be collapsed in, isolated, and thinking that I'm all alone. And little by little, when somebody opens that one little part up, and then I'm able to share with somebody else, it grows a little bit more. And I believe that, especially watching, like, my granddaughter, watching her come to life. You know, she's 3.5 now, and she's starting to talk, and she asks questions, and sometimes it's like, oh, stop. But to watch the sphere just start breathing, you know, it's movable, because I know that all days aren't really, really great, but they're not like this. You know, and to be able to move into, we call it the plot twist, to be able to breathe with it and just go, it's okay, you know, it's going to be all right. And to talk to somebody else about what's going on, because that was one of my biggest things, was to always hold it in and until it collapsed on me. You know, but to be full of it and just to go, I mean, it's got lots of colors, yeah, and it's full. That's what life is to be full of life, full of joy, and to be thankful that I'm still here. You know, it's another day, and I will always have another chance as long as I have that pulse.
That's right.
I always tell people, if you're not having gratitude, check your pulse. You have another chance, because that's where it begins.
Yeah, as long as you're alive, you're not done yet.
That's right.
And to go back to, it's never too late.
That's right.
You are still alive for a reason, for a purpose. No matter what your circumstances are, that purpose hasn't changed, and you can still do it.
Right.
Whether you have one more day, 50 more years, that's powerful.
I don't know if I'll rephrase it right, but we had this conversation about on the journey when you realized, and this is when you did realize that you were a victim of human trafficking and what that did to you and like your journey to expungement. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I told you the other day that I didn't. When people hear about human trafficking, they have the different misconceptions, or whatever they think it might be, and I was one of those people, because I believed that I was just doing it to myself, that I wasn't hurting anybody, and I was in survivor mode. I wanted to get what I wanted, and I really believed that I was okay. I was okay with living on the street, going in and out of jail, and I just didn't see anything wrong with it. And that's the scary part, of being okay with life that way. And I, when I see the women out there now, I know what that feeling is, because it's like when you're just have that blank stare on your face, there's no life in there, but then to start that journey and to start that process, and then whenever I had to write down for the attorney that did the expungement, of reliving all those moments, it brought it out and brought it to the light, to the truth of, I did a lot, I hurt a lot of people, especially my family. But then to move through it, to keep moving through it, and then I think I had to end up sharing it about 3 or 4 times. And then when 2020 happened, it kind of stopped everything in motion. Up until I think it was November of last year, I got the email and it said that Duval County had the paperwork, and it was just a matter of time and to follow through. And on, I think it was April 6th, the judge signed all the paperwork, and I don't think I have anything on my record now. And that's like over 30 arrests, within a 10-year period. So what a blessing that is, and I just, sometimes I can't believe that it's real, but the journey of life, I think that just not taking it for granted anymore, and being thankful that I have another chance, and I'm able to share with women that may or may not see it yet, but to make sure that they know they're loved. I go out with another lady, and we share the love. It's not necessarily about telling them they should. It's like, we love you, and we'll be here.
This is what I think I was so struck with when we were talking through this, is that you're in the life of trafficking. Someone is exploiting your vulnerabilities. So you are getting hurt. And you go on this journey, you come out the other side, and it's amazing. This is probably what I'll try to say what I'm saying. You are hurt and you're the victim, but along the way you hurt people
Mm-hmm.
So you have to walk through not only your hurt as what happened to you, you also have to reconcile the hurt that you caused others.
Right.
And that's like the duality that to me is just amazing. That first of all, you don't get stuck in the hurt that you received, and you also don't get stuck in the hurt that you gave.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's blame and shame. Mm-hmm. And to like walk through that is amazing to me. Because I've been stuck. I mean, I get stuck in both still. What happened to me and then what I did. I mean, so it's just such strength. And that is the healing process. And sometimes I also get stuck on like, it's not fair that you have to walk through this healing process because this happened to you. But there's still like, it's still what is. Like,
right.
It's still what is. This is what happened and what you have to deal with, no matter, and like an acceptance of it. And this is what I have to walk through to get to the other side. And you have to want it so bad. And I feel like me included, get so stuck in one of these cycles and we just can't get out, and how much we just miss out.
Right.
And that's why I think I'm so inspired by your story, that it's so full and it's hard. You're so strong. But like on the other side, there is this full sphere of where you are holding everything. Mm-hmm. Like all of life, like drinking it down to the dredges. It's awesome. And I love it. And I want it.
Well, I think when you said stuck, it's like being stuck in that lifestyle of not seeing a way out, not being able to even comprehend that there is a way out. And when people say there is a way out, it's like, no, there isn't. You know, I deserve what I became, you know, and being stuck in that cycle of the revolving door at jail, you know, and being okay with getting arrested again, you know, and just over and over and telling myself in jail that I'm not going to do it again. It's going to be different. And then getting out and the cycle continues. Being stuck in that mindset of the hopelessness, you know, and thinking, well, my kids they don't need me now. They're not going to ever forgive me. Mm-hmm. And that keeps the stuckiness of going. But then when you finally decide to break it and go, well, wait a minute. Okay, I can't change the past. There's nothing I can do about the past. And then to ask them, what can I do to make it right? You know, what can I do to help you now? You know, because like I said, my daughter was my youngest. She was 12 when I left, and all of a sudden she was like 25. And I was like, what happened? You know?
But to sit in front of your daughter, even though you now know also that you were taken advantage of in that vulnerability and in the darkness, and not defend yourself. Right. To be able to stand for your daughter and let her have her pain.
Right. Well, I've talked about that too.
I mean, that is strength. That is kindness. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and not lying to myself about what her truth is. And not I mean, of course I really want to say, but it didn't happen like that, or, you know, but I was, you know, all these excuses, but to let them share their truth and the pain that I caused them, because it is a healing journey. And I believe that over time, there's the time word again, our relationship is going to be better than it is now, you know, and whatever that looks like, I don't know. But I do believe that we can build on it, you know, and that's where I want to be able to be a good mother, you know, and it's not, of course I can't be who I was supposed to be, but I think because of the pain and the stuff that I did go through, I did come out the other side better, because I do have a new heart. I love differently, and I can stop and ask the question of, how are you? Instead of always portraying it's all, you know, poor me. You know, it's just the little things that shifted like that, instead of always taken.
I think that you're experiencing a joy of life that I think people listening would be hungry for. And I think it's a matter of getting really honest with ourselves that as long as we want to hold on to blame and shame, you had every right to say, this happened to me and I'm going to hold on to it, but you wouldn't be living life with joy. It will just shut you down. So the getting to that place of what is actually frees you from so-and-so did this to me. This group of people did this to me. This my parents did this to me. Right. I mean, and we just sit in it and hold on to it so tight because it's my excuse for where I am. And until we get to a place where we do the incredibly strong thing that you did, and we say, what is, I have this level of accountability in it, and I can do something about it. If you want to live your life with joy, stop worrying about fair. Right. Stop worrying about it shouldn't have happened, and just acknowledge what is and move on from there. And you start experiencing this life of joy and newness and freedom. Not easy, right, but freedom. I think you're a remarkable example to people that are still hanging on to well, this isn't fair. It shouldn't have to be this way. It is. Right. If you can get beyond that, you can experience this life of newness and excitement and wholeness. If you're still alive, it's not over yet.
That's right.
But I agree with Kristin. And it's it is powerful to stand in that moment and accept responsibility, even when I don't want to, even when I have some excuses I could try and play. The ability to give a responsibility, the ability to respond, is a powerful thing. And, it's remarkable.
And I wonder how that changes my advocacy, because a lot of my advocacy comes from a place of it's not fair. And I have deep compassion for people who experience hard things. I don't want you to experience hard things. And I don't know what shift is going to happen, but I don't know. It just makes me think a lot of what is justice and what does it look like internally for people to have justice.
Yeah, because the seeking after justice sometimes locks us into our place. We're still fighting a battle that we could have moved on from, but and it really is vengeance that we're talking about.
Yeah, true.
It really is vengeance at that point. Yeah, that's a really good point, Kristin, of justice is deserved. It is deserved. How dare that happen to you? But the moment we start demanding it, we've relinquished our right to our life to focus on a problem, rather than we can move on and let justice happen.
And it will. I mean, only because staying in that mindset of the woulda, coulda, shoulda, if, ands, or buts, all these things that I could have changed, I should have changed, but I didn't change. All these things kept me in that cycle of stuck of I couldn't do it because I kept reliving the past. I would stay in the same neighborhood for weeks or months because I kept trying to change the outcome of what was going to happen. And nothing ever changed, but when I finally released it and to let go of the way things are, the way I think things should be, and to accept them as they are, because the justice is, I don't know how to make that happen, but I'm not in charge anymore, because the releasing of it is the freedom, the acceptance of who I am, and knowing that it's okay. It is okay. Justice will. And I don't know how that happens or when, but I believe that it does. As some people might call it karma. I don't know, but I think that God takes care of it. I
mean, that's why I think of Homeboys. I think that's why I'm still so impacted by that book. If you ever read any book by Father Greg Boyle, he did work with gangs in LA and has had this amazing impact. But he doesn't tell you what to do. all he does is tell stories. He tells stories, and like the thing that he does tell you is 25 years ago when he started this, he started it in a church, and the church members hated the gang members. And now 25 years later, they've changed the justice system. Now the church is so involved. The gangs are dissolving that are involved in homeboys. It doesn't give you steps. He just humanizes people.
Right.
He just tells stories about human beings overcoming these hard things and gives them and makes them human and shows them their heart. And then justice happens.
No.
I'm like, I think that's the way to go.
Well, and you said the key word, humanize.
Humanize.
You know, when you see the women out on the street as somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, they're human. They aren't what you might think they are. They are somebody, you know, and that's the key. Because I know whenever I was out on the street, I felt way less than any part of human there was. And you couldn't, I mean, just the stares, the looks, the words, those all hurt. You know, but to see somebody as human, you know, we all deserve that love. And it took 25 years.
Time.
Right. So it's like, you know, but they kept moving forward. They didn't stay where we should be doing this. They were doing something, you know, and they didn't give up. So I think that, you know, recognizing the humanness and not giving up.
I like your word, cycle of stuck. I don't know what to do with it. But
Might go in the book.
It's going to go. It's for sure going to go on my dry erase board, and then it'll show up all over the place. Cycle of stuck is really, really good until we can get out of the cycle of stuck.
Yeah, you know, and I tell it because what I thought was, you know, it's like what I thought was the green grass over there ended up being quicksand that I didn't see because it looked so beautiful until it got me. And then it was like, how do you get out of that? You know, because it looked.
Oh, and I like what you said. You were talking about, I kept doing the same thing and just trying to manage the outcomes, manage what came out of it. And then suddenly you came to a place where you got really real with yourself and honest. And then you started managing the inputs, which changed your whole life.
Right.
But you just kept, in the beginning, just kept going back to the same old patterns. And then I'm going to try and change the outcomes. And I think when we get really real of, if I put in bad inputs, I'm going to get bad outcomes.
Right.
I thought that was a really neat thing you said. It just popped back in my head.
It goes along with that. If I have this much money, I can do this. Or if I have, you know, or if I lose 20 pounds, I'll be a size 2. You know, all these things that it's impossible. That is impossible. I'll never be a size 2. But to know that truth, it's like, because holding on to all that stuff, and because I remember that. I remember thinking that, well, if I get all this, I'll be able to do all this. And there was never enough of this to do that. And to finally realize that it doesn't work that. It just, that's unrealistic. You know, and to accept things the way they are. You know, this is, my life is good, you know, and not to expect it to be anything than what it is. You know, what a blessing, you know, because I can't wait to go home on days, you know, and because I do have a home to go to, but at the same time, it's like I keep my life structured and organized to where it's like I have this in place and this in place, because if certain things fall away, then I might go back. And I don't want to take that chance, because it's so easy to fall backwards when I think that I have everything I need or want. It's like,
I think it's also incredible that as you've moved through your journey, your sphere has expanded, and the lift of the human beings around you that happens when your sphere is full. I mean, we could talk about, well, I want to achieve my potential. I want to have my maximum sphere. And it's all about me still, some sort of pride. And I'm really achieving my potential. But as you've grown your potential, you've lifted all the human beings in your circle of influence because you're your fullness. And I think that's really powerful. I mean, when you go to the jail and you speak to those ladies, I mean, you're absolutely pouring love into their hearts, and you may be the first person who's ever done it, but you couldn't do it. Uniquely qualified.
Right.
Uniquely qualified. It's just powerful to do our purpose and achieve our full potential, to be willing to be honest, because it's our responsibility to be our best selves, because we can change so many lives around us, and that's what you're doing. It's impressive. Yeah. It's worthy of the effort that you've put into it.
I like to call it living hope.
Mm.
You know, when somebody actually sees living hope, then that it does transmit. You know, because when I got to hug a lot of ladies last night, and I told them, I said, be prepared. Next time when I come, I will hug everybody. I said, because there was a few that weren't there, and this, I said, I want them to feel that. You know, because I wear the bright color clothes when I go in there, because I said, I want y'all to remember what there is life. You know, the uniforms in jail are not that pretty. You know, and I want them to feel special. So, and some call when they get out, some don't. You know, and that's not my decision either. Yeah. You know, but I want them to know that they do have my number, and they can make that choice to call, or somebody else's number.
Sorry. I just had a revelation, I don't know, that I have a hard time, because my heart is bent towards justice, telling people that they have to take responsibility for this horrendous thing that happened to them. It just doesn't seem fair. But it's the only way through it. Like, it's like it's not fair. I remember walking through Sonagachi in Calcutta and just like screaming in my heart, like, this is not fair. How are you here? Like, this is not fair. And like, then on the other side of healing, when we're working in Saribar or we're working in Rethreaded, to know a person's story and then be like, well, now you, not only do you have to live through this, you have to take responsibility and rebuild your life for something that happened to you. And it just, I still probably haven't reconciled that in my heart, because maybe I'm still mad at my situation and I haven't taken responsibility. So yeah, just really thinking deeply through that.
Because the other side is that's what returns your power to you.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
But it's taking your power back. My life is mine again.
That's right.
I am able to respond. Whereas before, those ladies weren't able. Sonagachi, those ladies weren't able to respond. You weren't able to respond in the moment. You weren't able to respond. Today, you are able to respond. So the fact that I get to take responsibility, the world tries to push off responsibility as something that's put on you, that it's a burden to carry. But it's actually our power. That when I have my power of my life, I am able to respond. I get the anger. I mean, I think we're all angry at the unfairness, and we're angry at the pain in the world.
I think I'm stuck there, though.
But well, you may be. But to reframe it and realize, oh, yes, I have to take responsibility, but I now have the ability to take responsibility. I have my power back. That they no longer have control over me.
Go ahead.
That's the thing one of the things that kept me sick, because it's like trying to get sober for the wrong reasons. I want to get sober because I love my kids. Did I really love my kids, or did I want them to think that I love them? I want to get sober because of him. Because if I get sober, then he'll love me more. All these things that I think will get me sober and make me happy. But none of it works. When I got sober, because I wanted to live, that I wanted to take that responsibility and say, oh, wait a minute. Nobody ever caused me to go through all this. in the beginning, because I do remember making choices in the beginning of, this is fun, I can do this, I can handle it on the weekends. But then the addiction process, the quicksand, the stuck, got me, and I really believe that I deserved it, and I wasn't hurting anybody. So how can I take responsibility when I don't even know where to start, who to believe, and who to let in? Because at this point, all the friends or people that said they loved me weren't there to help me. They were there to keep me in bondage, of, if you do this, I'll give you this, because that's the mindset changes. And I just started believing that it was okay, but when I remember thinking that my last night out there, when I had to get honest with myself and see me for who I am, that's where God met me, because I was to either accept help from other people or just keep continuing. And that's where that never-ending cycle would have brought me, it would have killed me.
It's deciding, we kind of talked about this at Devo, it's deciding what the meaning of your thread will be in your life. You will decide when hard things happen what it will determine in your life. And I guess that's the control. Hard things happen to everybody. And when hard things happen, you get to decide. Yeah. You have control.
You have control back. Mm-hmm.
And that's the response. I mean, that's a responsibility.
And it is power.
Yeah.
It is power, because none of us are in control of our circumstances. But every one of us is in control of our response to the circumstances, our responsibility. And so I can choose what I do next. I can't necessarily control the circumstance I'm sitting in, whatever it is, but I can choose how I choose to respond to it. And that is my power.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe that's justice. Like at Rethreaded, we give the ingredients to heal, and like physically heal your brain, so you're not in survival mode anymore. Physically heal your brain, surround you with community, so you can take back your power. I mean, really, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's justice, to create communities, to create cities where people can go through hard things and have a choice, I guess. So thank you, Shirley, for being here and for sharing your life with us. It was awesome. I feel full sphere moment. So thank you.
Thank you.
Another first podcast.
I know, and I feel like I'm still at work. So I'm still